kind of put an end to it, and the show was being brought to the small towns by TV, and you didn't have to bring it by bus anymore, and future liners. And so the future liners fell into some pretty poor disrepair over the years, and we ended up with the 5. There was 1 destroyed when GM had the future liners, so there was 11. There's probably 9 accounted for. So it's a very special day here, especially keep in mind that you, for the very first time, are seeing a restored and an unrestored bus together. That's never been done before. So it's a very special occasion.
Thank you, Joe. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Reggie, and I'm going to back up to you too, Wayne. When did you start to be a car guy? You, Wayne. Joe, answer it first, and I'll back up to Wayne.
You answer.
My parents told me that, and you know, it's funny that the stories that you think that are unique to yourself, as I was listening up here with the stories about how people get started with their car infestation, the disease, it's not unique. So my parents told me when I was maybe 3, I could start naming cars. By 4, I could name, the different models, and by 5, I knew the years and everything else. And I always thought that I was really special with that. And then I started talking to other collectors, and they all had the same story. So, but I was very, very young. I always liked things with wheels. When I was 10 years old, my first vehicle was a J.C. Higgins bike, Sears, with a little motor on the front wheel. I can't think of the name of it offhand. And then at 11, I got a Wizard motorbike, a pacemaker. And at 12, I was able to convince my dad that you didn't need a driver's license for a motorcycle that was 250 cc or less, and he bought me a brand new NSU Max. And then by the time I was 16, my very first car, my 16th birthday, was a 1950 Olds bubble top coupe, which I was able to, at this Auburn auction about 7 years ago, find somebody that had the exact same car that I had in black, restored, and I bought it, and I still have it today.
How about you?
I grew up in a car family. My father restored cars for a living. My father was the co-founder of the Model A Restorers Club of America back in 1952. And so I really had no choice. My father's restoration business was such that I had to be off the bus every day and ride my bike up the street and work until 6 o'clock at night till we went and had dinner, and then I could do my homework. But when it really caught on to me was probably in the early 60s. We used to go to a resort in the Adirondacks, and there was a doctor from New York that was there the same 2 weeks that we would go for every year, and he had a Ferrari every year. So back in the late 50s, and then I remember in 1962, he came in and he had a 250 short wheelbase Ferrari in red, and I couldn't believe how beautiful that car was. It was a short wheelbase coupe, G2B, and he opened the hood and it had 2 of everything, and it had 2 distributors, 2 oil filters, 2 sets of camshafts. I mean, it was just, it was an unbelievable looking car. And then he took me for a ride, and that really did it. So that's why I got hooked on Ferraris. I got hooked on cars, though, because of my father. And every weekend we'd go to a different car show, and it was a family outing, unlike some of the things we have today, unfortunately. Hopefully car shows will become more family oriented and bring the kids and have everybody enjoy it, because we need young people getting involved in this hobby, because a lot of the people that own these cars are passing away, and we need to pass it down to the younger generation.
We've all got that same excuse me. We've all got that same problem, little motor oil running through the veins. Glenn, I know you've just recently come on board with RM, and your interest is certainly motorcycles. I know you're a dedicated motorcycle guy. How about your comments on the state of the motorcycle hobby right now, and why you joined RM?
Well, with regards to the motorcycles, it's not too different than car collecting. You have it in your blood, something you're basically born with. When I was young, my mom used to take us down to Alpha Beta to go pick a toy out while she was shopping. My brothers would be grabbing cars and stuff like that, and I'd always grab a motorcycle. So, again, I think it was something that was sort of inbred in me. And so it just started from there, and then with regards to having 4 older brothers, I'm the youngest of 5 boys. My dad being a blue-collar worker, worked factories and stuff like this. We didn't get a lot of new things, or basically I was the hand-me-down after 4 older brothers, so everything I got was usually used and abused, so not to cry in my cereal, but what it's done is it's sort of created my career for me. Again, to not get brand new things when I was young. If I wanted something nice, which I'm sort of anal, which I'm sure a lot of people in this room are, I wanted it nice. So the first thing I started to do, as soon as I got a bike, I'd tear it down, or whatever the case is, bicycles even, I'd tear it down and restore it, and basically that's, I think, was the start of my illness, like the rest of us have in this room. And again, it just evolved from there. I went from the mini bikes to the, well, early British bikes. Then when the Japanese bikes came in the 70s, I was lusting after those. And also coming from Southern California, we're dirt bike oriented. I mean, we have the best deserts in the world to go riding, so I had a fairly decent background in riding dirt bikes as well. And again, I had to do my own maintenance and so on. And from there, my career, I was doing basic repairs on bikes out of my garage. I mean, I've had probably 4 or 5 different business names through my years, from Bader's Motorcycle Repair to when I went up to Wyoming for 3 years, I was custom cycles and sleds. I was doing motorcycle repairs and custom bikes, and then in the wintertime I was working on snow machines. So, and then from there, came back to California, bought an ATC repair shop, which was back in when they were, the 3-wheelers were really sort of hot and heavy. And again, Southern California, we had great dunes. So ATC Performance Specialists, which turned into APS Racing, and then we were sponsoring motorcycles, the 3-wheelers and quads that were doing the Vegas to Reno, the Barstow Vegas races, and then also some of the SCORE events. We were sponsoring some of the racers there. So again, it's been a real evolution for me. And then I was living out in Palm Springs, and I was a general contractor and also doing work on motorcycles. And one unfortunate thing happened. I went through a divorce, and at that time I had a 57 Harley Davidson Sportster, which I bought up in Wyoming, and I had to sell it because it was just what happens when you get divorced. So lo and behold, I ran it through a Rec Coal auction, and I dropped the bike off one evening, and these 2 guys came up to take a look at the bike. I was out there wiping it off out in the grass and had no clue who these people were. And they were checking the bike out, and that was pretty much it for that evening. I went home. Next morning I got up, and one gentleman by the name of Jerry Sewell became a very good friend of mine, and happened to be the general manager for Otis Chandler. And he said, well, we're going to buy your bike today. And I'm thinking, well, that's a lot of gall. I said, there's hundreds of people out here, and anybody can buy that bike. But I didn't know who Otis Chandler was at the time. If he wanted a bike, he was going to buy it, period. So long story short, he bought that bike through the auction, and that started my relationship with Otis. And so they liked my restoration work, so they asked me to restore a few more bikes. So I found them, restored them, and basically they went directly into his museum. And from there, about 2 years later, they hired me in-house as the restorer and also the assistant general manager. And about a year later, again, Jerry Sewell had a very unfortunate motorcycle accident which debilitated him to the point where he could no longer hold the position of general manager, so I stepped into that position. And with Otis, for approximately 10 years, I ran his museum, curated his motorcycle collection, still doing restorations. And matter of fact, 2 of the restorations that I did for him are being auctioned in California today. The Easy Rider bikes that were the 2 Harley Davidson Panheads that were in his collection for a number of years, and they're being auctioned at at an auction in California today as we speak. And so after about 10 years of being with Otis, and also I restored a 34 Packard Town car that belonged to Jeanette McDonald. It was a Bowman & Schwartz car, and that car, along with a variety of my motorcycles that I did restorations on, ended up in Otis's auction after he passed. So long story short, that brought me up to where I am today after leaving Otis, starting my own business, Bader International, and then Bader Auctions. And so being that I've known Mike Fairburn and Rob Meyer for probably about 15 or so years with our association through Otis, we came to an agreement to pull my two companies in and start the RM and also Auction America's motorcycle branch of the auction. So I'm real excited. It's going to be a real great union. Of course, RM has a lot of horsepower, and with my knowledge and my contacts, I think it's going to be a real good formula.
I understand all these motorcycles back here